Bruce Boudreau is out as head coach of the Vancouver Canucks. Rick Tocchet is in. Justin Pooni of Locked On Canucks joins us to talk about why this move was made and what to expect going forward in Vancouver. All that and a lot more coming up on today's Locked On NHL podcast.
You're Locked On NHL, your daily podcast on the National Hockey League. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome, everybody, to the Monday edition of the Locked On NHL podcast. Gil Martin, so glad you could join us today. And thank you for making Locked On NHL your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, the official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more. Visit FanDuel.com/Locked On today to get started. Well, the big news over the weekend, a new coach in Vancouver. Justin Pooni of Locked On Canucks joins us to discuss it. And Justin, I can't say I was shocked by the move, but maybe the timing a little bit surprising. What happened?
Yeah. You know, Gil, it feels like just yesterday where the Canucks cleaned up house. They fired Jim Benning. They fired Travis Green. Jim Rutherford, Patrick Allvin were brought in. Bruce Boudreau was brought in. And, you know, after we saw the second half of last year that, hey, these guys respond to Bruce Boudreau. These guys like Bruce Boudreau. This team is going somewhere. But the telling thing, and maybe the writing was on the wall before this even really got started, because Boudreau and Allvin and Rutherford really never gave Bruce Boudreau the full vote of confidence. There was always the comments in the media, the never showing any support. And a guy like Bruce Boudreau, who we saw the videos, we've seen all the clips of just how beloved he was in a short time in Vancouver by the fans. You saw it last night in against Edmonton, where as the game ends, you know, he salutes the fans one more time. This franchise, Gil, it's one very near and dear to my heart, and I've seen the best times in this organization. I never thought this franchise had hit rock bottom until this week. This franchise, quite frankly, is the biggest laughing stock in the entire NHL. And you're seeing that get put on full display for everybody in the NHL to see. The way they treated Bruce Boudreau the last couple weeks, parading him out there, him talking about, I don't know why I'm still here. I don't know what this and that. It's quite frankly, it's embarrassing. It was disrespectful. It is not the way an organization should be run, and a championship level organization should be run. And quite frankly, the Vancouver Canucks are further away from a Stanley Cup, in my personal opinion, than they might have ever been, because they have no plan. There is no plan with this organization. There is no structure. There is no ownership from the top to bottom. Nobody takes onus on what's going on, right? And I thought with a guy like Jim Rutherford, who has won Stanley Cups, who's built championship organizations, a guy who's been in the game for decades upon decades, right? I thought that would be something to turn this organization. Hey, the buck stops with me. I have to, there'll be no more of this. And I thought going into the season, I think we talked before the season started, these guys were going to be a playoff team. I felt that they had a chance. The talent was there. I felt that the mojo was back. And from the jump, first opening night of the season, it's just fallen from the wayside. And we're here now, another coach, and we'll see what happens, I guess.
Do you think there was a point where Boudreau lost the locker room, or did he just never have the faith that ownership needed to have in him?
See, that's an interesting question, because I think at a certain point, players kind of clued into, hey, management's not giving this guy any faith. So is he really the guy? And I think that it left the players in limbo. Like, okay, well, is this guy really going to be around? What's that whole indication? So I think management and ownership take the biggest amount of blame in this situation. They just don't. And quite frankly, it goes to ownership. Francesco Aquilini, and his lack of ability and wanting to rebuild and retool. Like last week when Jim Rutherford gave that iconic and amazing press conference where Bruce Boudreau is our coach for now, or we need major surgery when I thought we needed minor surgery. He still never said the word rebuild. He said it's more of a retool. Well, that's because Francesco Aquilini lost, as many teams did, lost a bunch of money during COVID. And he does not want to rebuild because he feels that fans will not show up. Well, if you look at watch the games, fans aren't showing up because the product on the ice is garbage right now. And again, I don't know where to go from here. I don't know what's going to happen. But we know Rick Tocchet's the new head coach. We know Sergei Gonchar and Adam Foote are new assistant coaches. So there's experience. There's Stanley Cup winners. But who knows what's going to happen.
What changes do you foresee that Tocchet will implement to try to get something going for this team?
Well, we do know this. They're going to play with more structure. He mentioned that in his opening press conference today. They're going to play. I think he said, he's like, I don't like river hockey. I guess, tipping the hat to pond hockey and just a lack of structure. Kind of was what Boudreau's biggest deterrent was with front office. So they didn't play with enough structure. So this team's going to play with structure. Can guys like JT Miller, a guy who has been very open about how he's not willing to change, at least in the media, right? About how he's going to be that sour type of guy, which I'm all for, right? But how are these guys going to buy into Rick Tocchet's system? Because quite frankly, the playoffs are pretty much gone, right? Unless they go on another miraculous thing and they hope some things fall the way, the playoffs are done. And it looks like Bo Horvat's going to be gone too, which to me is one of the biggest mistakes this organization can make. But alas, we'll see what happens there. This team is going to be going through a lot of changes, I think. And this is the first one. And let's see what happens. Let's see how these guys perform. What's going to happen with Elias Pettersson? He's got in a contract situation where, similar to Matthew Tkachuk last year, he's eligible for an extension. And if he doesn't want to re-up with the Canucks, right, you can say, you know what, forget this. I don't want to be here. Trade me, right? I don't want to re-sign here. And then what do they do, right? So interesting times ahead in Vancouver, to say the least.
Any other players that you think might be on their way out at the trade deadline or before?
Connor Garland's name's been bandied around a bunch. We'll see what Tyler Myers can do. Tanner Pearson's injured, so he's not going to get traded. Who knows what Brock Besser it seems like every second week or every couple months there's the Brock Besser rumor going around. So this team, I feel, is going to look very different. It might not be at the end of this season, but come the start of next season, that major surgery that Jim Rutherford was talking about should be underway. And we'll see what happens. We'll see what transpires. But this team and this organization's got to do a lot of soul searching. And it's not looking pretty.
Oh, it may get worse before it gets better, but certainly interesting times ahead. Yeah, exactly. Justin, why don't you tell our viewers and our listeners where they could find the podcast and where they could find you on social media?
Of course. So podcast, Locked On Canucks on all your podcast platforms, Apple, Spotify, you know that. Go to YouTube, just type in Locked On Canucks. We are the first thing that shows up. Our show's Twitter is at Locked On Canucks. Follow us there. And you can follow myself on Twitter at Justin Pooni, JUSTIN POONI with an underscore at the end. And yeah, there'll be definitely a lot more Canucks content because, quite frankly, the Canucks are the soap opera in the NHL that just loves to keep on giving.
Well, we'll keep track of that and hopefully have you back if there's some big news. Justin, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Gil.
Today's episode is brought to you by your friends at Athletic Greens. Our next partner has a product I literally use every day. I started taking AG1 because I didn't want to have to take so many pills to get all the nutrition that I needed. So what is this stuff? Well, with one delicious scoop of AG1, you're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to help you start your day right. This special blend of ingredients supports your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, energy, recovery, focus, and aging, all these things. And it's lifestyle friendly, whether you eat keto, paleo, vegan, dairy-free, or gluten-free. Right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. It's just one scoop in a cup of water every day, and that's it. No need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. And to make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/NHL Network. Again, that's athleticgreens.com/NHL Network to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance.